villages have made nice products, handicraft products and some home products, food products. And she went on to say, please buy them, please buy them. Somewhere, for a person with self-respect, I felt this is crazy. You can't go on asking for help, saying, please help my rural women and all that. That's when we started a program called MOVE, which is called Market-Oriented Value Enhancement, where we made the women entrepreneurs, especially for small and micro enterprises, to start their enterprises looking at the market, not looking at your skills that you have, not looking at the raw materials that you have at your best, but more to look at from the market. And it was a very, very interesting experience that we went through. And we found that while most of the programs that you have is empowering women either in the form of microfinance, thrift credit that you have, or small credit that you have, or in terms of skills training. But when you train the women to stand up in the market, you find a total change in the woman. And I can tell you that with my experience that I have had with West Bengal, I've had with Tamil Nadu, I've had with Karnataka, I've had with Maharashtra, I've had with Gujarat. I've worked with all the NGOs over there, and this MOVE manual has been translated into all several languages, primarily aimed at the women should be taught and trained to survive in the market. If they survive in the market, they can take any product, they can change anything. I'm sure that you'll be able to take the next generation. And I feel the skills that we talk of, all the skills training that we talk of, should be more oriented towards that. This has been my experience, and it has been very, very pleasant for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Subhas. That bell was not to scare you at all. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I totally believe in,
% of the women. So that is a glass ceiling, and that is why even in a country like USA, there was a women delegation.
This population will then dwindle because there will be no food. Of course, this didn't come true because of the Industrial Revolution and food growing at a much faster pace. But all along when I was a student, I was told that large populations are a problem. And everything that was happening in India, I was told, was because of our large population. Somewhere by the time I became middle-aged, I started hearing the word demographic dividend. That is where the working population becomes a very large proportion of your total population. In India, people in the age group of 15 to 64 is about 66% now. This is a huge percentage. In most countries of the world, especially the Western countries, this population is much lower. When I hear the word demographic dividend, it shows us that there's a window of opportunity. How do we train this wonderful group of young people? Our average age, median age, is now about 24. In the rest of the world, it's about 48. Even China is about 37. So I think this is a huge opportunity for a country like India. But the moment we hear the word demographic dividend, I think it's also important to realize that it is only if we train this population well, if they are well educated, and we are able to generate the jobs that are required for them, that this promise will turn into a reality. Huge working populations can lead to a huge jump in growth for the country, only if we are able to provide the right skill sets. And I think that's where education plays a very, very important role. Creating the right skill sets, creating a vocational training in a country like ours, making sure that everyone who is educated is actually able to get a job. I'm told we need to generate about 1 to 2 million jobs a month, and our record hasn't been all that great. So I think in this context, we need to make sure that we need to start thinking out of the box, being innovative in our education. Do we need to have all bachelor's and master's degrees as we have had in the past? Is it time for us to look at what the jobs of the future will be and train our students to fit into those jobs? If we are talking about driverless cars, do we really need to train driving skills to people? I think these are the things that educationists need to start thinking about. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Gupte, Vice Chancellor of Symbiosis International University, all the way from Pune. This is fantastic. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Next, I have Dr. Satya Shah, Principal Lecturer, AEM from the UK. A big round of applause for Dr. Satya. Welcome. Would you like the podium mic?
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Wow. An exciting place to be. Such a distinguished lineup of teachers and colleagues. Such a pleasure to be here. I'll start off because we've been told 2.5 minutes, and you can't keep an academic by talking. So I'll try and short myself. I'll start off by saying or quoting Dr. Herbin Arora's statement of soul sisters. And I'm just one lucky brother to have so many soul sisters over here. So I'm feeling very privileged and honored to have such a huge, vast amount of soul sisters, which I can call myself. I'll start off by also saying a short story in terms of what my mother used to tell me when I was 10 years old. We belong to a tribe or a caste of Banyas. I don't know if anyone knows what Banyas are, but we used to be called traders. And traders had a task of taking things rather than giving. And my mother used to tell me that, son, you're not meant to be taking, you are meant to be giving. So whatever you see in my profile, that's the institution or the profession which I belong to, but I'm here today on my own, myself. I'm here for the giving. Just started to devote myself to give. I'm here not just representing myself, but I'm also representing as a father to a beautiful and loving daughter, a husband to a very caring and respectable wife. I'm also representing a brother to a very courageous, independent, and strong sister. And last but not the least, a very adorable son to my loving and beautiful mother. So, I am Satya Shah, and I'm here to be part of this wide family. The topic is empowering education, skills, and human development. So I hope I'll make a small part to this tremendous task which we have ourselves ahead. So thank you very much once again. I'm very deeply honored and humbled to be here in front of you all, and my best wishes to all of you for the rest of the week. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Satya, for coming up here and sharing your beautiful thoughts. And this weekend you're with us, and I know you're doing a lot of other workshop downstairs. So if anybody wants to speak to him, feel free. He's very approachable. I've been friends with him for the last 2 days now. Thank you, Satya. Next, I have Hanny Fink Ferdinand. There we go. Facilitator, trainer, and coach from Denmark. Welcome, Hanny. Thank you. A big round of applause for Hanny.
Thank you very much. I'm Hannah Fink Ferdinand. It comes out differently depending on who says it, but you did a good job. I'm very honored to be here. I have been fascinated by the world since I was a child. I've traveled and studied, and I've worked abroad. I've lived in small villages in Nepal. I've been in rural communities in Bangladesh. I have been living close to rich expat bubbles in various parts of the world. And I've also been living in Denmark, where I come from, for a long time. And I had my 3 kids. My oldest was born when we lived in Nepal, and I was working there. And then we went back to Denmark, and then we stayed there for 8 years, and I had 2 more kids, and life went on. And suddenly one day, my husband comes to me and says, I need a change in our life. He wasn't ready to change me, so he said, well, let's change my job, or let's change where we live, let's figure out something. And within a couple of months, he had found himself a job in Kenya, where we have now lived for 2 years. And I followed him, like many other people follow their partner, going for a job, whether that being a man or woman, but many of us are women, going along for the adventure, for the experience, for the family, some do it for the money, some do it out of need, some do it out of curiosity. And for the first time arriving in Kenya, I loved the country, I loved being there, we landed well. My kids learned English, we figured out the school, everything went well. But for me, it was the first time in my life that I realized that I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a profession, I didn't have a professional identity. I was no longer able to answer the question, what do you do with a company name, a title, or not a title that I liked so much. I mean, I like my kids, but being a 24/7 mom was not a title I liked to introduce myself by. So I found myself losing my identity, and suddenly I saw that a lot of the people I'd met through my travels and through my studies across the world had the same experience. They were losing their identity, trying to find new paths. Some of them went into alcoholism, some of them broke up their marriages, some of them did a lot of different things that I didn't want to do. So instead I've connected back to a friend of mine who just set up a network that's called Here We Are. Because here we are, all around the world, here we are. I'm here now representing all of us, and we've set up this global network to empower through, in fact, it's through disrupting the way that we talk about dual global careers. So when a couple move out, we want people to be accepted and accept themselves as two global professionals rather than the one person moving along with the other. So we have local chapters growing up around the world. We have a digital platform that's of course also global, and so connecting people is the whole thing. Connecting accompanying partners to grow, share, connect. It's through local meetings. It'll be through webinars and things. Yes, and you can hear a lot more about it tomorrow morning if you wish to hear the full speech. It's at 9:45 downstairs. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Hani. It's super cool to know that, husband and wife can just pick up and move and discover things. And I think that's how we actually grow. You have to just sometimes pick up and go and discover new places. So thank you for sharing that. I'll invite Jasmine Kumar to come up on stage. She's from VC Raise International Preschool from India. You'll tell me where in India? Noida. Wonderful. Hi, welcome.
Thank you so much. Yes. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Are we all awake still? Can we raise hands who all are awake?
She's a preschool teacher, right?
Very. Okay, I'm the promoter and I'm the educator, both.
So,
yes.
Perfect. Perfect time for them to do some
Oh, yes,
exercise.
I really want them to wake up. Do you want to do some rhyme session? If you really want them to wake up. Great. Okay, I extend my warmest salutations to each one of you sitting here. And a special thanks to Harbeen Arora for organizing such a wonderful, enriching and an encouraging platform of Women Economic Forum. And she's being a powerful, source and soul behind this whole thing. A decade back, I have quit my high-paying leadership position at IBM India because I wanted to follow my dreams of becoming an educator one fine day. And I'm happy to live a little early in life, that dream of mine. I think now, today I can say that I have the best job in the world because I get to work with people who are full of fun, a lot of energy, full of creativity. There is no monotony in my job because I happen to work with people who are of the age of 1 to 5 years of age. We have to, I run India's largest preschool, which is by the name of Raise International Preschool. When I quit IBM, I was being told by my India head HR that, Jasmine, it's not going to be successful. The reason is because he wanted to retain me. So he came up with his list of 10 things. Funding, a lot of competition into this industry, and of course not having a background of being an educator earlier. I said, fine, I understand. I don't have probably all these things and all these obstacles I'm prepared about that I might be encountering in the future. But I have one thing which is there with me, which is going to be there always with me, is determination. And that's primarily the reason why you hired me. I'm so happy to stand at this stage in this platform and share. I took that decision, and in just 1 year of being into operation, my school has been ranked amongst top 10 preschools. So it's quite a proud feeling, because the kind of team that I have, there are a lot of people from my team who are here. Hi Nidhi, hi Rima. So they are the backbone of my institution, because they are sharing, they've joined my organization and sharing the same vision. At RAISE, it's a preschool with a lot of difference, with a lot of innovation, and because here we are teaching them life skills. You know, innovation, when it comes to the topic, innovation into education, innovation is not about a certain set of people who are from the outside the education, who think and do some things to, you know, make a difference. That is not what innovation is. Innovation is not about having smart boards, interactive classrooms, having podcast. That is not innovation. Innovation is not about having technology involvement into the old school of thought, old school of teaching methodologies. So what is innovation? Innovation is all about making your children future ready. Our children today, they are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. So for our country to have political, socio, economic progression, we need to invest, we need to ensure we give right education and impart the right skill set, and most importantly, empower them. Empower them to be the future leaders. A child who is taking birth right now in a maternity center somewhere might be ruling the whole country tomorrow. So what are we doing? Are we giving them enough? Are we doing the right things? As educators, we have a very important role in our hand, which is to give the right foundation, to set the right base for our country. It's about what we do in their lives today to instill those skills, empower them with creativity and innovative mind, so that they are prepared for, embracing the challenges which they are going to encounter in the unforeseen future. At one side, we talk about bringing innovation into the, though we have very short of time, so I don't want to, focus more on these issues governing the education system in our country. But this is equally important. We cannot overlook such issues. Issues like, it's not just our country, it's all across the globe. Why do we have so much of a children dropout ratio? Why are the teachers not that, motivated to work because of, the lesser amount of salaries perhaps? Why do we have, the public sector, which is not setting the image of being a role model for the private sector? Why are they pitching in the private players to be a part of them, when there is so much of a funding and the grants coming in? So what I'm trying to say is that these are certain issues which we cannot at all overlook, because we are talking about education. It's no other industry. It's about our future. It's about empowering our nation. It's about our growth. So we really need to shake people from the grassroots level, and that's where I close my pitch. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. You said it so beautifully. Innovation isn't about just putting technology in a room. It's about giving life skills and, to the next generation. So beautifully said. Next speaker I have is Lamia Rahman Ahad, President and General Secretary of Asia from Bangladesh. Big round of applause for Ahad. How are you? Nice to meet you as well.
Hello, and very good evening to all of you. And I would like to thank the organizers and Aurora for inviting me. And first, I would like to make a small correction. I'm not the president of Asia, and I'm an educationalist.
Wonderful.
So it's wrongly written. Yeah. My experience in education is, I'm from Bangladesh, and while I was studying in Manchester, We definitely were studying formal educations. But when I was studying in Manchester, I learned that there are some other kind of education is going on in my country, and that is non-formal education, and that is for the underprivileged children. And the more I have learned, the more I became emotionally involved with it, that not only the government, but also the non-government organizations like PRAC, one of the largest NGO in Bangladesh, and other NGOs also doing this project, how they can reach to the underprivileged children, the marginalized children who do not have the access to the education, how they are reaching those children and making them, involving them in the education, when education is not their, one of the priorities to go. So when I learned about it, and I also expressed that in the university, and I found that a lot of people, most of the people actually where I was talking about, did not know about these innovative ways how we are going to get the poor and the underprivileged children to be interested in the education. And then when I went back to Bangladesh and I saw it in first hand, I became more and more attached to it. And that's how I would like to talk about today as well in the evening session, today's evening session. I would also like to talk about all the innovative ways that we have taken to approach the education for all the underprivileged children all over our country in Bangladesh. And we are trying to reach all those children who are deprived from the basic needs, and we can give them the basic education, and we can give them a better life. We also, through this project, we also empowered the woman as a teacher or as a coordinator of that project. So all these things I will be discussing today, as we don't have much time, so I don't want to prolong. So I hope to see all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ahad, and thank you for correcting me. She's an educationalist from Bangladesh. A big round of applause for being here. Next, I have Ms. Linda Brown. She's the president of Torrens University, Australia. I will welcome her onto stage and have her share her views with us.
Hi, afternoon. What a privilege it's been to be here for the last couple of days, and really, as all good educationalists do, listen and learn from the amazing people who are at this conference. My name is Linda Brown. I'm from Australia with a Scottish accent, and I have got the privilege of building the first new university from scratch in Australia in 25 years. As you can imagine, that's an incredible privilege, as we only have 42 universities in Australia, and to be granted the opportunity to do this is phenomenal. I work for a company called Laureate International Universities. We actually own 80 universities across the world. Every year we graduate 1 million students, so we are the largest higher ed provider globally. We have 19 medical schools, we have 18 dentistry schools, right down to me in Australia, who not only is building the first new university, also owns a variety of colleges, including the Australian College of Natural Therapies, etc. We're also setting up in Australia the Global Centre for Ageing and Wellness. When you actually look at the map and look at what Laureate does, it was a private corporation that has now gone public. And we are now the biggest public benefit corporation in the world because we're genuinely here for good. We've given away more than $700 million for philanthropic activities across the world. So it's quite a privilege to be involved with this organization. In Australia, why build a new university? We've built a new university built on what everybody's saying in this room. There is a place, education for education's sake. But we're actually building a university that's built around employability. In Australia, only 63% of graduates get jobs once they've qualified. At our new university, 100% walked across the stage of the 5,000 that we started in that new university in 2 years. We now have 14,000 students already in Australia, and we'll have 50,000 employed graduates in the next 3 years. I don't have time to share with you today all the amazing things that our organisation does across the world. We own 2 small organisations in India, UPES, which is a university up in the mountains for engineering and IT, and also Pearl Academy, which are both beautiful institutions. But please, please feel free to come and have a chat if you genuinely want to talk about global education. Scale is important, and making money is important when you're genuinely here for good and put it back into the community. I'm inspired to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown, for being with us. Next speaker is Ms. Sorensen, owner of IIRT, all the way from Denmark. Big round of applause.
Thank you very much. First, I would like to say I'm grateful to be a part of this organization. I am Lone Sorensen, I'm from Denmark, and I am the founder of the International Institute of Reflex Therapy. I have been an entrepreneur since I was 18 years old, and I have done the same work for nearly 40 years now, without any break at all. I have created my own natural therapy called reflex therapy, some kind based in reflexology and acupuncture. But I did my own totally variation, and I created my international school. And I can also think, I think I can say that I am an educator of women's education. I have educated 14,000 students since I began in the early 80s. 13,800 women and 200 men. So this is what I'm offering in my school. It is a short education from 6 months to 12 months. And I have had my school and institute in Denmark for 10 years, for 13 years in South America, and now latestly I'm running my main office from Barcelona in Spain. Today I am working in 21 countries, stabilized. My biggest school is in Tokyo in Japan, and other in Copenhagen, in Buenos Aires, also my own school. But after that I am working with 35 instructors local in the different countries, where I'm traveling around 320 days a year teaching my therapy. My school are offering 3 different departments of teaching, all about natural therapy. The first, and we can say maybe biggest one, it is common health. It means every kind of health problems, where I am teaching hand, face and food reflex therapy, and it is a base education. Underneath I am offering 40 different specialized courses. The second apartment I have developed, it is rehabilitation. My method is called Temprana Reflex Therapy, and it is about treating basically brain damage children and adults, which I'm also doing in many countries. It means I'm also teaching parents and family courses. I have a big heart for teaching children, maybe because when I was young, I got my second child myself with the health problems, and I had to rehabilitate him myself. So I got a big interest in helping children with brain damage. So this is a very huge thing I'm using my time for. But also I have programs for elderly, Alzheimer, dementia, stroke, MS clients, and all what is brain related. Even we have an apartment for school problems, dyslexia, any kind of this kind of problem with school difficulties. So this is what I'm doing. As I have short time, I think that is maybe what I have to tell you about that. But I will also say, when I became an entrepreneur, it is now nearly 40 years ago, it was in 78. There was no help as we can get today, many courses. There was no mastermind courses I could take, so I have to find out myself. And yes, I learned in the hard way, but I will also say that the best money I have spent, it is the money I lose. I did many fails during this long travel to become well known with my activities. And I also had many stones and mountains to climb over during all this time. So lately I wrote a book about it. So this is just coming out in English. I did it for some years ago in Danish. And for 2 months ago, I have to turn it around. Yes, of course. It came for 2 months ago in English. So here I'm describing all the stones and mountains I have had to climb in all this journey. And this is my last exemplary, and this is my gift for Dr. Harbin. If anybody likes to read it, it is as e-book and also as paperback, as you see here. I will also say that the last 2 years I have been struggling very hard to turn my activities, a part of it, into online. So I am developing online school myself, and also with American company Mundo Pato, I am going cloud with all my teachings in these days. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sorensen. How amazing is that? You know, she's got her book going on, she's got an online school and other operations and still going. The entrepreneurs really, really inspire me. Thank you. Thank you for being here from Denmark. Can we get a big round of applause for this lovely lady? Next, I have Pallavi Shah, Chairperson and Managing Director of Dale Carnegie Training from India. Is that correct? Wonderful.
Welcome. Hi, thanks. So I think we began and they said, tell us a personal story. So I'm going to put aside the speech that I had planned and tell you a little bit about myself. I hail from a very old business family of India. And you know what they say about family businesses, that by the time they reach the third generations, a majority of them just wind up. And our family business was possibly no exception. It didn't wind up, but there were just too many family members. Somebody referred to the Malthusian theory, and I think our family just grew in geometric progression with every generation, and the assets in the family business did not keep that pace. So there was an internal war of control. And it's very easy and convenient to, when there's a war of control, there's a turf battle, gender becomes a very convenient excuse. An otherwise liberated, very progressive family where we grew up with the best of education, a very global exposure, we were told that daughters and girls of the family really don't have any, share in the business. And something bothered me a lot. Just a couple of days ago, on Facebook, you have all these inane tests that you can do, and I did a personality test, and there's a slogan that comes up that tells you what kind of a personality you are, and it said, when life gets tougher, you get tougher, right? And that's something that happened to me. It was when they said daughters will not have a share in the business simply because you're born a girl, something triggered in me, and I kind of dug my feet in. And I said, I'm going to fight for my share. Now, to cut the long story short, is we did manage to get, me and my two sisters, we were the only three, children of my parents. The three of us did manage to get some share. I wouldn't say the rightful share, but some share is better than no share. And what I inherited was a financial services firm. So point made, broke my glass ceiling in the family business, possibly in the world of Indian industry at that point in time, but inherited the kind of business that I didn't want to run. So I happily shut down the financial services business to actually start something in the area of HR, and then moved on to education and skilling, and that's how I run Dale Carnegie Training today, with a simple premise that everybody gets an equal opportunity in my company. And the beautiful part about the equal opportunity in my company is that today all the positions of control are led by women, and simply based on merit. There was no, absolutely. So once again, to cut a long story short, is I think if there's a level playing field, I think we would see a lot more women in leadership positions than we see them today. And so many of you have been to India before, some of you are from India, and many of you are coming here for the first time. It is said about India that we are like a mini Europe, you know, a 29 nation state, you know, gloriously plural, culturally diverse, and you know, complex, and you know, intriguing and charming all at the same time. We have one thing that we really need to think about very deeply in this country, and that is really the catch, is for all the great stuff that's happening in this country, we need to know one reality, that 1% of the Indians control 60% of our wealth, and 21% of the Indians live below the poverty line. Now that's a very severe inequality, not just in incomes, but in opportunities, equal opportunities, and in terms of possibly demographic dissemination generally, and the empowerment that's possible. And the only way to resolve this is through education. And I think this is a very erudite crowd. I really don't have to talk about what education can do, but you know, we all know that good education is not just about the 3 R's, but it's about giving people a pathway to make choices about their lives, right? And I think that's the part that I think Indian education system needs to think about. Today, the current government allocation on education is a measly 4%. And for a country like India, I don't think we can work on evolving as a society, or even the great big Indian story that we aggressively sell to the world is never going to become a reality unless we really invest in education, in the right kind of education. At the same time, and there are people, I will make this very quick, we're in a phase of jobless growth. You know, we talked about driverless cars, etc. So skilling is becoming a very important factor. And I think between education and skilling, we will be able to set our people free. The reality of India is that by various estimates, anywhere between a lakh and a lakh and a half, I think that's about 100,000 to 150,000 individuals enter the workforce every month in India. That's the, you know, that's the mind-boggling figure. We have a reality of I think somebody said that in another decade, we would have 25% of the world's workforce population, working age population. And while by 2030, there's going to be a talent shortage around the world, India has the potential to have 40 million surplus talent. Now the trick is to have talent and not just a demographic number, right? And therefore skilling and education is absolutely the singular priority in this country, otherwise we too are sitting on a ticking time bomb. So this is really the story, and I think for the last 13 years that I've focused along with Dale Carnegie on the area of education and skilling. We've been fortunate enough to be able to train I think over 275,000 people across the country, you know, right from helping them get their jobs, sustain, grow in their jobs, or even become entrepreneurs and gain livelihoods. And we have set ourselves goals to, you know, train and impact 1 million lives over the next 10 years. So this is just an opportunity to share our story and you know, hear all the good work that everybody else is doing as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing some of those numbers. Sometimes we're not aware of those numbers, and it's so good to know in reality, in 15 years, what are we really looking at, the skills and education, how important it is for us. So thank you, Pallavi, for sharing all those numbers with us. Next, I have Mr. Samir S. Somal, SFO at Blue Ocean Global Wealth from the USA. Give him a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is certainly an honor and a privilege to be here at the Women Economic Forum, representing our organization and I would say challenges and opportunities at the same time that are near and dear to everyone in this room. In thinking about a few comments up here, all of us are educators, and what an exciting and distinguished group of panelists. I wanted to share a little bit of a story that I think is relevant to empowerment. Being an educator and representing both of our companies and speaking globally, it's not because I prepare incredibly hard behind closed doors or put in the work, it's because we lead by action. And 2 years ago, my business partner, Margarita Cheng, who is a married mother of 3, her oldest 2 in college, we put together a program when I was going out and lecturing in India called An Entrepreneurial Mindset and the Intangibles of Success. So how do you think like an entrepreneur? That doesn't mean that you want to found a company. It means, to quote the French economist J.B. Say, it means moving resources from an area of lower yield to an area of higher yield, which means that could be time, that could be money, that could be people. And the other subject that we spoke about was the intangibles of success. So in India in particular, where we have this demographic dividend or demographic bomb, so acutely made aware during the last few comments, it's oftentimes focused on numbers. How do we get into IIT? What are our marks? And Indians are notorious for taking inventory on other people. But ultimately, it's the things you can't measure in life that matter. How do you measure trust? How do you measure relationships? How do you measure your ability to communicate effectively? And I was speaking at a university, and there was on this subject, and I received a message a week later while living at the airport in India from a young woman who said, Samir, you taught me through those comments, you changed my life. And you taught me that I can do well in this world, I can be professionally successful, and I can be happy. And they're not mutually exclusive. And this message made me cry. And this message made others in our organization, it brought tears to our eyes. And this young woman, we decided to invest in her. We said that she is something special. We are going to personally mentor her and grow her, because in India, for those of you who aren't aware of it, companies are growing 10, 30, 40%, and they're not investing in their people. And that ultimately is going to come to a stop. And so this young woman, we've invested considerably, so much so that in a couple months she'll be named our Chief Marketing Officer, and she'll be awarded equity in our parent company, and she's only 22 years old. And she's actually standing right there with the camera. Rachita, wave your hand. And when you think about the opportunity to empower women, how do you solve how the biological curve is in direct contrast with the career opportunity set curve? That takes an ecosystem, that takes a proverbial village, and that takes collaboration amongst all of us here in this room. And so when you think about the intangibles, one of them being emotional intelligence, using your ears and mouth proportionally, which women are much better at than men, certainly living proof of that. I want to end and just briefly mention that life is about connecting with people one at a time. And I'm here to foster new friendships, to learn about how our organization can partner and support your endeavors, because I believe that everyone that's attending this conference has a common desire to achieve their full potential and put young ladies and young people on the right seat, the right bus, the right highway, and the right destination. And so I want to end with one line from Albert Einstein that I think defines the intangibles of education. And that's, not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. I want to thank all of you for attending. It's certainly an honor to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you.
How empowering is that? If we can think of more companies that can empower women educate them and just take their, take them on their shoulders and give them what they want, we can really, really, really grow. So big round of applause for Samir. Thank you for being with us, Samir. Next, I'll have Sue Curr, speaker, empowerment coach, and author from the UK. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you very much. Hi. Short person alert. Okay. I'm Sue Curr. I hail from Yorkshire. Okay? Yeah. Okay. I'm Sue Curr. I hail from Yorkshire in the UK. These days I'm a speaker and an empowerment coach. It wasn't always that way. My background is in education and mental health, and I also have a significant personal mental health journey, which almost inevitably led me to combine the two to get to a point in my life where I'm stood before you today. I won't bore you with the laborious details of that, but I'm quite happy to talk about it off stage and off camera, as it were. Every single person in this room, on this planet, has a potential which they can fulfill. We cannot all be brain surgeons and presidents. We may not all want to be cloakroom attendants and bin men, or teachers or lawyers. It doesn't really matter what yours or my potential is, as long as we reach it to the best of our ability. If we give a man a fish, he will eat for a day. If we teach him how to fish, he will eat for a lifetime. Human empowerment starts the day we are born. As an educator, I firmly believe that. As a mother and a grandmother, I believe that even more strongly. We're the first generation, I believe, that has to coin a criminal analogy, the means, motive, and the opportunity to empower our children, to empower their children, to change the face of this world. And we can do that within one generation if we all work together. George Benson said, the American singer, I believe that children are the future, and it's something which I very wholeheartedly agree with. Our education starts the day we're born. The instant that we pop out of our mum, we're yanked into the air, we're smacked on the backside, and we immediately become aware of the fear of falling and being startled. Yeah? Unfortunately, as we grow, our emotional memories that we attach with significance to incidents that have happened can lead us down one of two paths, where we look at life through a window of opportunity or where we look at it through a window of fear. If you look at life through a window of opportunity, you are running towards the likes of Simon Cowell on the X Factor shouting, I'm next, I'm the next Beyonce. If you look at life through a window of fear, you're more likely to be rooted by the paralysis of inaction, which are brought about because you are too frightened to be the person that you were meant to be before the world told you who you should be. How do we change that? We change it by realizing that everything begins within. As a mother, as an educator, for me, the journey towards living life from the inside out, as opposed to the outside in, has become pivotal in terms of empowering the people around me. My clients, my family, and certainly my students when I was in education. Children grow to what they know. Children also grow to the labels that they're given. If you consistently tell a child he is stupid, he will believe it. Also, to quote Einstein, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, then it will believe its whole life that it's an idiot. In other words, we are all capable of doing the best that we can. We will not necessarily always do it in the same way. When we grow, we come to understand that the story we tell ourselves is the truth. We make our story fit if we don't want to stretch and learn and grow. Human empowerment comes on the back of accepting who we are and what we are, but also knowing that if we choose, because all of us have choice in this life, if we choose to, we can do, be, and say whatever we want to do. The sky isn't the limit, ladies and gentlemen. We are the limit. The beliefs that we tell ourselves, the stories that we tell ourselves, will be the story that we play to. I would suggest that if you are willing and able, you take the chance to choose to change, and reach your full potential. In that way, you can empower your sons and your daughters to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue. We have our last speaker for this session, Usha Pandit, if she can come up onto the stage, CEO, Mindsprings Enrichment Center from India. A big round of applause for Usha.
Hi, everybody. Let me introduce myself. So I'm a teacher. I've taught in 4 countries from K to 12. I'm a teacher trainer across India. I'm also a champion of gifted education. And I work with the Tata Memorial Hospital to do enrichment programs for children with cancer. So this is my profile. I'm also a change maker. As a change maker, I'm very unpopular, right? But it's wonderful. When change happens, then people suddenly have amnesia. They forget that they protested. So it's really an extremely wonderful kind of vocation that I have as a change maker. So as a teacher trainer, as a consultant, as a person who writes books, so I'm also an author. So I have 17 textbooks that I have written, which are in about 100 schools across India. In everything that I do, I keep the child at the center. Everything that I do is revolutionary. I've always been like that. As a cup teacher, I remember, which was about 30 years ago, I used to make a measly 600 rupees. My husband was then the vice president of a multinational in India. But I never ever felt less than him, because I used to tell him, you sell soaps, I mold souls. That's the difference. And when I speak to teachers, this is something that I tell them, that you must have very high esteem, because you are the most powerful person in the world. That child sitting in your class looks up to you. The child sitting in the class has complete trust in you, and you can change lives. So that is the power of a teacher, which lots and lots of teachers don't really quite recognize. So that is one mission that I have. Now my big thing, what I'm going to talk about tomorrow at 9:45 in room number 11, is about myth busting. So there are lots of myths in our world. There are lots of narratives and stereotypes and comfort zones, and we tend to cling to them. And I think that's something that we need to break. So if you look at the world and if you say it's a sad place, the only thing that can change it is education. And how do we change that? How do we change thinking in the classroom? What do we do? I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. So do come in and let us break the mold. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pandit. I know we've had a long session. Everybody probably wants to get up really, really fast. So I will invite Dr. Harbeen Arora to come up on stage, and we'll start our Iconic Women Creating Better World for All, and also Iconic Leaders Creating Better World for Us All awards. So big round of applause for all of our speakers in the house today. Really let them hear it. You know, we've had some great education from there, great personal stories. Thank you again, speakers. We will have Miss Linda Brown come up onto stage. Ma'am, right over here, right behind you. There we go. Big round of applause for Linda. Next I'll have Constance Elizabeth Swaniker. Please come up on stage. Dr. M.S. Subhas. Vice Chancellor of Vijayanagar Sri Krishna Devya University, Bellary. Next I'll have Dr. Pankaj Mithil, Additional Secretary, University Grants Commission, Delhi. Next I'll bring Dr. Rajani R. Gupta, Vice Chancellor of Symbiosis, International University, Pune. Dr. Satya Shah, Principal Lecturer, AEM, from the UK. Next I'll have Hanny Fink Ferdinand, Facilitator, Trainer and Coach from Denmark. Bring up Miss Jasmine Kumar, BC at Ray International Preschool from India, Noida. I will invite Lamia Rahman Ahad, an educationalist from Bangladesh, to come up on stage and receive her award. Let's keep clapping for these ladies. Next, I'll have Ms. Sorensen, owner of IIRT, Denmark. Next, I'll have Pallavi Shah, Chairperson and Managing Director of the Dale Carnegie Training Center in India. Iconic leaders creating a better world for all. Next, I'll have Sue Curr, speaker, empowerment coach, and author from the UK. And lastly, I will invite Usha Pandit to come up on the stage. She's the CEO of Mind Springs Enrichment Center from India. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of this session. Now I do request all the speakers to come up on stage and take one lovely photograph with Dr. Harbeen Arora. We will be starting our next session right away. Speakers are here, so I request you to stay in the room. If you need a quick break, please go ahead, but we will start right away. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon. didn't hear you.
I'm shy and I'm quiet.
Okay.
My privilege to call upon stage Mr. Vikram Chandra. He's a journalistic star. We all know him. You'll see him, you'll know him. Consulting editor with NDTV. A very special privilege to have him here with us today. Put your hands together for Vikram Chandra, please.
So as Mansi said, Vikram is someone we all know. This is an evening dedicated to people who are known almost by everyone in India. After Vikram, we have Baba Ramdev coming, and also a face that needs no introduction. Vikram was studying abroad, wanted to get into Morgan Stanley, good companies, Oxford education, all of that. And in the 1990s, when India wasn't the India that we know today, he decided and made a difficult choice, which was at that time, was to come back. And was to come back and do something that made meaning to him, that would, in his thoughts, create impact. So Vikram is somebody who is at the NDTV for over 2 decades now. And he transitioned from being in a reporting role as a journalist to now the CEO. I was the CEO, still in a consulting role. And so transitioned from the journalism aspect to the business aspect of the business as well. So his has been a wonderful journey which has witnessed many shifts in the growth of modern India. So I will ask Vikram what his message to women entrepreneurs is, and what has been his journey, what struggles has he gone through? Are they gender agnostic, or would women need to know and do something differently? And also we will take the opportunity of his presence over here, and he's seen many, many kind of things in modern India that he could predict trends for, tell us where the future is going, and enlighten us all on many aspects, since he's had the opportunity of seeing many shades. On this note, Vikram, I invite you to come to the Women Economic Forum. We are absolutely delighted to have you with us, and just speak to us from your heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you can take the podium.
Well, thank you all so much for having me here. And among the things that I would like to talk about is something which is particularly close to my heart. And I'm sure it's a question all of you are waiting to ask me, so I'm going to preempt that. And I am going to be talking to you a certain amount as to why television news has become so bad in the country. I know you're wanting to get that answered, and I'm going to come and I'm going to tell you the reason for it. But before that, just wanted to say thank you very much for having me here. And on what you said about the role of women entrepreneurs and women leadership in general, I always feel that it's very difficult for me or anyone else in NDTV to really speak on that particular issue for one reason. We've never ever encountered in NDTV what it is like not to have women at every possible level of leadership. My boss, from my first career, which was Madhu 300 News Track, to Radhika Roy at NDTV, I've always had a female boss. I've never had anything other than that. And in NDTV, the question is really not who are the women who are in leadership positions. The question is more who's not. Who's in a leadership position, who's not a female out there or not a woman out there. So I think we, in a sense, way that sometimes colors our mind is, you realize what the real ideal is. And the real ideal is an organization or a country or a world where you're not trying to encourage women because they are women to do well. The real ideal is when you have a situation where you don't even think about the gender of the people who are around you, because they're all in leadership positions anyway. And as a CEO of NDTV, so I was one of the very few people who was then in a leadership position, I remember this researcher came to me from the United States, and she said, can you tell me what is the gender composition of managing editors and the CEOs of your various companies? What is the gender composition? What percentage will be women? And I had to tell her honestly, to be completely honest, I haven't thought about it, because we were fortunate enough not to have to think about it. And then when we sat and we did the math and we did the numbers, I was able to calculate that actually all of the CEOs in NDTV group companies, with the exception of me and one other person, were all females. Our managing editors were all women. All the people in senior, our head of revenue was a woman, the head of our online business is a woman, they all were female. So that actually made me feel good at that time. And that's when I realized that this is one of the things that we should push for, having a situation where women are rightfully taking their position, and not because it's happening because someone is trying to do it. It's just what is natural and what is taken for granted. So that's a good part. That's a good part, and I think it's starting to happen. It's happening in areas where there is entrepreneurship being the most obvious one. It is very possible for women to make a mark, as many of you are doing, and it's great. And you will find that for all the problems that we have in India, when it comes to the way women are treated and the impediments that are put in their way, one of the good things is that you sometimes don't have a glass ceiling to that same extent. We never thought twice about having a female prime minister. You don't think twice about having women as CEOs of companies and as banks and all of that. So India is always a paradoxical country, and this is one of the things that is paradoxical, that here in India you have to have such a massive fight for the rights of women at every level across the country. And yet at the same time, when women start to do well, then hopefully gender then doesn't become a glass ceiling. So that's one positive note that I'll leave you in. Before coming to the other part, which is less positive, which is, why is TV news so awful? Because I'm always asked this question. Every time I'm speaking somewhere, somebody will raise their hands and saying, why is TV so awful and why do people scream and shout so much? Now, the true answer to that is that people scream and, one of the answers is possibly you don't like the people screaming and shouting or showing tantrics or bhoot banglas, you should ideally not watch. You do have the remote control. But there's another reason for it, and it's a reason I want to leave you with, because I don't know what the solution is, but I think we need to find a solution and find it fast. The problem is that in India, television news channels do not get money from cable operators, from subscription. Around the world, if you're a good quality TV news channel, you want to do good, solid work, it's not a problem, because cable operators will pay you money. People pay subscription money and say, I want to watch that channel. They'll pay their cable operator. The cable operator will pay the channel. So you can have good quality programming as a result of that. In India, TV news channels don't get money from cable operators. They pay the cable operators. So they are entirely dependent on advertising. And now is when we come to the real problem. Advertising in India is governed by TRPs, which are three letters which I truly think have destroyed television and television news in India, and are well on their way, by the way, of rotting the mind of an entire generation of Indians the way we are going, because there's a fundamental problem with TRPs. TRPs are only measured by 10,000 boxes. In a country of 1.3 billion people, 10,000 boxes are telling you which channel is successful and which channel is not successful. And think it a little further. Let's say English language news, right? How many boxes would be measuring that? 10,000, you have to spread it in the whole of the country. So some are in Tamil speaking homes, some are in Telugu homes, some are in, Assamese speaking homes. So maybe there are 100 boxes in English speaking homes, and another 150, 200 boxes in places where they don't understand English all that well, but they pick it up a little bit. Now let's understand what that leads to. What that leads to is I have done literally hundreds of programs on issues like women's rights, female feticide, the problems of getting girl-child education, the problems for toilets for girl children and the absence of them. A lot of the issues that are really important issues. What are the TRPs that you get for any of that? Zero. The answer is zero. You don't get TRPs for that. If instead of doing that, I was to shout at somebody, anybody, random person, call some ex-person, call you up and start shouting at you or screaming at you or saying, let's bomb Pakistan tomorrow, there will be TRPs. If I do some film star or I do some tantric Baba with big bushy beard saying, an alien is about to descend, you'll get TRPs. So the problem of that is that good television is being driven out by the bad. And the chase for TRPs means that increasingly channel after channel after channel is becoming a clone of itself, and you're getting this hysterical, non-balanced, sort of programming, which really means that not enough attention is going for what are the right things. Not enough focus is being put on the right things. And people who try and say the right things are sometimes just drowned out in the cacophony. And that's a problem, and I think we have to try and find answers to that. I'm happy to get any suggestions from anyone who has it.
Thank you so much, Vikram, for taking out the time. And Vikram is one of our very senior awardees. He was supposed to come on the media session this evening, but he has to be in the studio in the evening, so he's here with us right now, and I have the great opportunity to present to Vikram the very well-deserved All Ladies League and Women Economic Forum 2017 Award of the Leaders of the Decade in Media and Social Change.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being so patient. We're just waiting to hear whether Baba Ramdev is on the premises and whether he'll come in now, whether we'll do the session now, or we'll have his interview first. So if you'd bear with us for the next 5 minutes, we'll know exactly what's happening. So especially for the panelists for the next session, it would be actually a huge privilege to be joined by Baba Ramdev for the session as well. So that might happen. He's Baba Ramdev, for the benefit of our foreign delegates, he is the epic yoga guru of India. He has taken yoga to the masses internationally, and he's also the founder of the Patanjali Institutes. Yeah, he's big.